There we go. Hi, Naomi.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for
Good. How are
bearing with me and
you?
my technical difficulties.
Of course. I feel like it was both of us. I kept
Of
not
course, I
seeing
feel like
the
it was both of us. I kept not
invitation.
seeing the
Invitation.
invitation. It's 2025. We are all just doing the best we can with
2025. We are all
technology,
just doing the best
constantly
we can with
changing.
technology, constantly changing.
All right.
It's
So,
true.
folks, good evening. Good
Late
evening.
evening, depending on where you are.
Late evening,
I'm Kenzie
depending on where
Locks.
you
I am
are.
our
I'm
director
Kenzie
of
Locks.
educational
I am our
development here at
director
Yesh
of educational
Tikva.
development here at
And
Yesh
I am so
Tikva.
excited to have with
And
me
I
here
am so
Naomi
excited to
Shmuley,
have with me here
who is going to
Naomi
tell you all about
Shmuley,
her
who
story.
is going to tell
But
you all
she
about her
is a
story.
fertility
But
friend
she is a
mentor.
fertility friend
You've done a lot
mentor.
of stuff, I feel like,
You've
with
done
us
a
in
lot
general,
of
and you
stuff, I
can
feel like, with
share
us
as
in
much as you
general, and you
want.
can you
But
can share as much
want
as
to
you
introduce
want.
yourself a
But
little bit and how
want to
you
introduce
ended up
yourself a little
with
bit and
us
how
in
you
every way.
ended up with us in every
Sure.
way.
So hi everybody. I'm
Sure.
Naomi Shmuley, and it's
So hi
really
everybody. I'm
an
Naomi
honor to be
Shmuley, and
here
it's
to speak to
really an
everybody.
honor to be here to speak to everybody.
I have been
Um,
part of the infertility
I
world.
have
I
been
feel like
part of the
since
infertility
I
world.
got
I feel like
married. So
since
almost
I
16
got
years.
married.
Next month will
So
be
almost
16
16
years.
years.
Next month will be 16
And
years. We have a very
and
extensive,
we
long
have a very
journey
extensive,
to building our
long
family.
journey
It has a
to
very
building
happy
our
ending, thank
family.
goodness.
It has a very
We
happy ending,
have
thank
one
goodness.
biological
We
child,
have one
and we just
biological
adopted
child,
a
and we
newborn
just
who is
adopted
4.5
a
months.
newborn who is four and a
And
half months.
so we have
And
run the
so
gamut of
we
everything.
have run the gamut
And
of everything.
do you want me just to jump right in and start sharing my
Do you want me just to
quotes?
jump right in and start sharing my quotes?
Yes. How did
Just
you?
however much you
This
want
is
to
your
share,
space.
but
Just however
okay,
much you want to share. But
okay.
really excited.
So
Okay.
my husband and I, when we got married,
My
we
husband
found
and I,
out
when we
pretty
got
quickly
married,
that we had
we
some
found out
pretty
pretty quickly
severe
that we had some
fertility
pretty severe
diagnoses,
fertility
and we
diagnoses,
weren't sure what that was
and
going to look
we
like.
weren't sure what that was
So
going to
we
look
did
like. The whole gamut, right? We did
the whole gamut,
injections and
right? We did
IVF and
injections and
several
IVF
retrievals,
and
several
several
transfers,
retrievals,
and
several transfers,
we
and
were just not successful. We
we
had
were
many
just not
losses. We had
successful.
many
We had many
transfers that were
losses. We had
not
many
successful.
transfers that were not
And
successful.
at some point, we had a
And
discussion. What
at some
is
point, we had a
our family
discussion.
going to
What
look like?
is
Right? Are
our
we
family
going to
going
be
to
able
look like?
to, right? Are we
Have our own
going to be able
biological
to
child, or
have
do we
our
need
own
to
biological
reconsider
child,
what
or do we need to
a
reconsider what
a normal
a
family in
a
in
normal
the Jewish
family
community looks like, right? Because
in the
everyone
Jewish
wants
community looks like, right? Because
beautiful
everyone
family,
wants
large family,
beautiful
maybe
family,
not
large
super large, but
family,
like
maybe
more
not
than one
super
or two
large, but
children.
like
And what is
more
our
than one or
family
two
really going
children.
to
And
look
what
like?
is our family really going to look like?
And at that
Um,
time, my husband worked for Child
and at
Protective
that time, my
Services,
husband worked for
which
Child Protective
is they
Services,
investigate child
which
abuse and
is they
neglect,
investigate child abuse and
both in the
neglect,
home and also when the
both
child is
in the
put into a
home
foster
and
care.
also when the child is put
So
into a
when my
foster care.
husband was
So when my
um,
husband
working for
was
CPS, he was working
working
and
for
investigating
CPS, he was working and
allegations of
investigating
abuse and neglect
abuse
in
allegations
foster
of abuse and
care
neglect
homes.
in
So
foster
these
care
children were already
homes.
removed from their
So
family
these children
and
were
were
already removed from
placed
their family
in a foster
and were
care home, and there
placed
were allegations
in a
of abuse and
foster care
neglect,
home,
and he
and there
would
were
come home and
allegations
tell
of abuse and
stories,
neglect.
and it
And
would
he would
like
come home and tell stories, and it
a
would
lot of
like
stories I didn't let him tell me because
a lot of
it was
stories I
too
didn't let
hard
him
to
tell
listen
me
to.
because it was too hard to listen to.
But
It really
but
like struck a nerve that
it
here we're
really
trying so
like struck a
hard
nerve
to
that here we're
build a
trying
family,
so
and
hard
there's
to
these
build a
children that
family,
are
and there
just
are these children that
being
are
mistreated,
just
right? And we have such a
being
loving,
mistreated,
open home,
right? And we have
and
such a loving,
maybe this
open
was
home,
something
and
that maybe this
we
was
needed to
something
consider.
that we needed to
So
consider.
we went for our foster care license,
Went
and
for our
in our
foster care
state at the
license,
time, our
and in our
foster care license
state
was
at the
also a
time, our
foster
foster
slash
care license
adoptive
was also a
license.
foster slash
Um,
adoptive license.
so it was a very
Um,
invasive home study
so it was a
that
very
they ask
invasive home
lots of
study
questions.
that they ask lots of
What are
questions.
our family goals? What
What are
are
our
the
family
challenges that we
goals?
face in our
What are
family?
the
How do we
challenges that
address
we
those?
face in our family? How do we
We
address
had to get
those?
medical clearances. We
We
had
had to
to
get medical
show our pay
clearances. We
stubs
had
and fill
to
out
show our
what
pay
our debts
stubs
look
and fill
like, what our
out
expenses
what
look
our
like
debts
every
look like,
month.
what our
How do we
expenses look
have
like every
money
month.
to,
How do we
if
have
we were to
money
bring in another
to,
child, how would
if
we
we
have
were to
money
bring
to
in another
support them?
child? How would we have money to
We had
support
to do
them?
background checks.
We had to do background
We had to take
checks.
training. So it was a
We had to
very
take training. So
long,
it was a
arduous
very
process.
long, arduous
Um,
process.
but at the end,
Um,
we got our
but at
foster
the
slash
end,
adoptive
we got
license.
our foster slash adoptive
And
license.
this was
And
probably 5 or 6 years
this was
after
probably 5 or 6
we had
years
been
after
married.
And at the same time, we're still going through
and at the same
our
time, we're
fertility
still
journey
going
and trying to
through
build our
our
family.
fertility journey and trying to build our family.
And every year, you have to renew your
every
foster
year,
care
you have
license
to
and
renew
adoption
your
license.
foster
And every
care
year we would
license and
sit
adoption
down and
license.
say, and every year we would
Should
sit
we
down
continue?
and say, do we want to continue this?
Should we continue?
Or do we
Do we
want
want
to
to continue
pivot and
this,
try
or
something else?
do we want to pivot and try something else?
Not to interrupt you, but
And
not to just
were
not
children
to
being
interrupt
placed
you,
in
but
your home throughout
were
this
children being
time?
placed in your home throughout this
Not
time?
yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So you're
Not yet.
renewing, but no,
Okay.
no
Not
foster.
yet.
So you're renewing, but
Exactly.
no fostering. Just
Exactly.
gotcha.
So we had our
we
first child, our oldest child,
had
who was
our
born
first
after 8
child,
years
our
of
oldest
marriage.
child, who was born after 8
And
years of marriage.
and
He was born in November, and in
he was
December,
born in November,
our license
and
is
in
up for renewal.
December, our
And
license
we
is
kind
up
of
for
sat down
renewal.
and said,
And we
should
kind
we
of sat
continue with
down
our
and said,
license, right?
should we
We have
continue
a
with our
child.
license?
We
We
don't
don't know what the
we
future is
have
going
a
to bring.
child. We don't know what the future is going to bring.
But do we want to keep our license open?
But
Because
do we
the
want to
whole-
keep our license
not the whole
open?
purpose.
Because
One
the
of the
whole-
purposes was
not the whole purpose.
to build
One
our
of the
family.
purposes was
So to build our
we
family.
have a child now.
So
So do we want to continue
we
with
have
our
a
license,
child now.
or
So
do we want to continue with our license,
We're good.
or do we want to just say
And
we're good?
it didn't cost us
And
anything to renew our
it
license.
didn't cost us anything
and
to renew
at
our
that
license.
time, there were
And
I
at
think
that
there was only
time, there
one
were
other Jewish family in our state that had a
Jewish
foster care
family
license.
in our state that had a foster care
And
license.
so we knew that there is
And
always
so
a
we
possibility
knew
of a Jewish
that there
child coming
is
into
always a
foster care.
possibility of a Jewish child
And so it was
coming
really
into
important
foster
to
care.
keep our license.
And so it was really important to keep
So
our
we
license.
renewed it, and then a few months
So we
later,
renewed it,
we did foster.
and then a few months later,
we
we
did
did sibling
foster
group,
for almost
sibling
a
group
little bit over a year.
for almost a little bit over a year.
And this will go into
The adoption
and this
part
will
also
go
because
into
the adoption
foster care
part also
system,
because
the
it's
foster
a
care
triangle,
system,
but a different type of triangle than
it's a
an
triangle,
adoption
but a
triangle,
different
because
type
you
of
have
triangle than an adoption
the
triangle, because you have
biological
the
parent that still
the
has a
biological
say in
parent
how the
that
child
still
is
has a
parented and
say
raised.
in how the child is
You have
parented and
the
raised.
foster parent,
You
and then you
have
have the foster
the
children.
foster parent, and then you
And
have the
so-
foster children. And
Fast
so,
forward, when we were talking about adoption,
fast forward,
and open
when we were
adoption,
talking about
I had this
adoption
in the
and
back of my
open
mind
adoption,
where
I had this in the back
the
of my mind where
foster children's
the
mother
foster
would sometimes like chirp
children's
in our
mother
ear what
would
she
sometimes
wanted
like
us to
chirp in
do
our ear what
with her
she
children,
wanted us
and
to
I was
do
like
with her children.
I
And
don't
I was
know
like,
what does an open
I
adoption
don't
look
know
like?
what does
So
an
how
open
does
adoption
that
look like?
compared?
So
So
how does
we'll put that
that
on pause. So
compare?
that was something that
So we'll put that on pause. So
always,
that was something that
I like reflected back
always,
on foster care. And
I
was
like
ooh,
reflected back on
that
foster
was a
care.
lot
Like,
to have
ooh,
to manage.
that was a lot to have to manage.
And that's interesting again. But the goal was
And that's
was
I imagine
the goal was
reunification during
I
that time of
imagine
them with their
reunification
mom.
during that time of
And
them with
so
their mom.
she of course has a
And
say because
so
she still has
she of
the
course has
parental
a say
rights and
because
everything,
she
the
still
legal
has
rights,
the
but
parental
also
rights
like
and everything, the
she's
legal
she's
rights.
hoping
But
to
also
have
like
them return to her.
she's hoping to have them
She's
return to
worrying.
her.
I mean, not that you know,
So
she's worrying about
not
and
that
wondering,
she's
and
worrying about and
is used to
wondering
having a
and,
say,
and
is
in
used
their
to having a
lives,
say,
and
Exactly.
in
their
their
lives.
shift.
Yeah,
Exactly.
A shift. Yeah.
So that was
Right.
the goal was always
right.
reunification, and
The goal was always
she
reunification.
did remarkable,
and
and she was able to have
she did remarkable.
her children
And she
went
was
back
able
to
to have
her, and it was
her children went
beautiful.
back to her, and it was beautiful.
So we kept renewing our foster license
We
and our
kept
adoption
renewing our foster
license, and at some
license and
point,
our adoption
we always
license,
said,
and
and
at some
we
point,
would keep going
we always said, and
IVF
we would
and
keep going
transfers
with
until the
IVF
embryos ran
and
out,
transfers
or until the
turned
embryos
40.
ran out, or
And
until
those
I
kind
turned
of
40.
like coincided at the
And
same
those
time.
kind of like coincided at the same time. We kind of said, okay, like with
we kind of said, okay,
consultation with the
like with
doctors, consultation
it was
with
just
the
not going to
doctors,
happen. We were not going to have another
it was just
biological
not going to
child.
happen. We were not going to have another
And
biological child. And
we thought, okay,
what
what are we going to do?
we
Right?
thought,
Okay, what are we going to do?
we have
Right?
a
Are we
beautiful
gonna,
child. Are we going
we
to
have
just
a
love him
beautiful
and
child.
raise
Are
him
we
as
going
an
to
only
just
child?
love him and raise him as an only
make peace
child?
with this is the size of our
And
family.
make peace with this is the size
Or
of
do
our
we want
family?
to explore
Or
other
do we want
options?
to
Explore
and
other
with
options.
our
Adoption
with
license,
our
there is a website called
adoption
Adopt
license,
US
there is
Kids,
a website called Adopt US
which is
Kids,
for kids that are in the foster care
which
system
is
and
for
their
kids that are in the
parental
foster
rights
care
have already
system
been
and their
terminated,
the parental rights
and
have
they're
already
up
been
for
terminated.
adoption.
So
And
we
they're
would,
up for adoption.
look on that
So we
website
would,
every once in a while and
look on that
peruse and just
website
see.
every
And
once
we
in a
inquired
while
and
and
sometimes
peruse
about
and just
kids,
see,
and it
and we
wasn't a good
inquired
fit.
sometimes about kids, and it wasn't a good
And
fit.
we also were very cognizant
And
of
we
that these
also were
children are
very
mostly
cognizant
not
of the fact
Jewish,
that these children are
and we're
mostly
raising
not
them.
Jewish.
We would be raising them in a
And
Jewish
we're raising
home, and
them.
so
We would be raising
we
them in
didn't
a
want
Jewish home, and so
a 6-year-old or
we
a
didn't want
7-year-old
a
that had
a 6-year-old or
it would just
7-year-old
really
that
shake
had
up the world.
it
Anyways,
would to be adopted, and then to add the layer adopted, and then to add the layer of
because you're living in our home.
well, now you have to keep
Right.
kosher because you're living in our home.
And you have an Orthodox Orthodox home, correct?
And
yes,
you have
we have
an
an
Orthodox
Orthodox.
home, correct?
Right. So
Yes,
it's
we have an Orthodox.
Like you
right.
said,
So
it's a very big adjustment for
like
a
you
child
said,
in
it's a very
general
big adjustment
to
for
be
a child
adopted
in
into a
general.
brand new family,
To
but
be
to go
adopted
from,
into a brand new family,
potentially
but to
not
go
Jewish
from,
to
potentially not
Orthodox,
Jewish.
it's like
to
it's like a culture
Orthodox.
shift.
It's like a
It's like a culture shift, a
Yes.
complete culture
So we were
Makes a lot of
very
sense.
yes. So we were very cognizant of that, and
yes. So we were very
so when we
cognizant
looked
of
at
that.
adopt
And
U.S. kids,
so when we looked at
we
adopt
knew
U.S. kids,
what we were,
we
what our
knew
parameters were.
what we were,
And
what
we
our
inquired and
parameters
nothing
were.
panned out.
And we inquired and nothing
And
panned
at
out.
some point, we got cut off of our
At some
access
point,
to
we
adopt U.S.
got
kids.
cut off of our
And we were
access
kind
to
of like,
adopt U.S. kids.
that's strange.
And we were
'cause
kind of like,
our foster license is still open. So
our foster license
why
is
would
still
that
open.
be?
So
And they said,
why
It was
would
like a
that
portal
be?
where you have to
And they
log
said,
in.
oh,
It was like
that
a
kind of
portal
how it
where
works?
you have
yes,
to log
exactly.
in,
Is
and
that
suddenly
kind
you
of how it
couldn't get in
works?
Yeah,
there.
so suddenly my
Exactly.
username was not valid anymore.
So suddenly my
So when I
username
reached
was
out
not
to our
valid anymore.
caseworker,
So
she's
when
like,
I
oh,
reached out to our
right. In your
caseworker, she's like,
state,
oh, right.
you've
In
been
your
grandfathered
state,
in for a while, but
you've
you
been
actually need to
grandfathered
have
in
a
for a
special
while, but you
adoptive
actually need
license
to have a
and
special
an adoptive
adoptive
home
license
study,
and an
not just the
adoptive
foster
home
slash
study,
adoptive anymore.
not just the foster slash
Okay.
adoptive anymore.
So here was another crossroad.
Okay.
Do we want
So
to
here was
go
another
through with
crossroad. Do we
another
want
home
to
study,
go through with
or do
another
we want
home
to just
study,
say, okay,
or do we
we're
want to
done?
just say,
And
okay, we're done?
because we were
And
working with a foster care system, it was
because we were working
pretty
with a foster
easy
care
because they
system, it
used
was
most of the
pretty
home study
easy
that we
because
already
they
had from
used
foster
most of the
care
home
and
study that we
said,
already had from
we're just going
foster
to copy
care
and
and
paste that
said,
part and do a
we're
little
just
bit
going to copy
more.
and paste that part
And
and
once
do a
again,
little
we had
bit
to go to our
more.
doctors and get medical
And once again, we
clearances,
had
and
to
we
go
had
to our
to
doctors and
show
get
our
medical
pay
clearances,
stubs
and we
and
had to
show our pay stubs and friends to write us references,
lots of stuff.
Background
So
checks, the whole
lots
thing,
of
right?
stuff.
background checks, the whole
It's a
thing,
Fingerprinting,
lot.
right?
Yeah.
it is a
fingerprinting,
lot.
Yeah.
and
It is a
so
lot.
we were
And
starting to renew the
so we
process.
were
This is
starting
probably
to renew the process.
July-ish, maybe June, July.
July-ish, maybe June,
And
July.
in
Of
September,
last
and
year, of
in
2024. Of
September,
last
yep,
year, of
of
2024.
2024. And in
Yep.
September, a friend of
And
ours
in
saw a
September,
post
a friend of ours
on
saw a
Facebook,
post on
and
Facebook
that
post
that was it was
post
part of like a postpartum
it
doula
was part of like a
Facebook group for
postpartum
professionals.
doula Facebook
And
group for
the
professionals.
woman that posted
And
said that she had a
the woman
client
that
that was
posted said that she had
pregnant
a
and looking to
client
place
that
her
was pregnant
child
and
up
looking
for
to place
adoption,
her
and it had to go to a
child up
Jewish
for
family.
adoption, and it had to go
And
to a Jewish
so
family.
my friend saw this
And
and sent it
so
to my
my friend
sister
saw this
and said, I
sent it to
feel
my
like this is
sister
something that
and said,
Naomi
I
would be
feel like this
interested
is
in, but I
something
don't
that
want to
Naomi would
overstep.
be interested in, but I don't want to
And so
overstep.
I should pause and
And
say
so
that
I should pause and say
we were not
that
publicizing the fact that
we had an only child and that we were
we had an
struggling to
only
build our family, but
child
it
and
also
that
wasn't
we
a
were
secret.
struggling to build our family, but it
Right,
also wasn't a secret.
we live in an Orthodox Jewish
Right, we
community.
live in
We have
an
a son who at
Orthodox
the
Jewish
time was
community. We
almost
have a son
7,
who at the time was
and
almost 7.
it was not a
And
surprise.
it was
Right, and
not
it took
a
us 8 years to
surprise,
have him.
right? And
So
it took us 8 years to
like
have
a shock
him. So it
that
was not like a shock that we
you just waved at me.
Oh,
you
sorry.
just waved
I'm
at me.
running through raving at
Oh,
everybody.
sorry.
I'm running through raving at everybody.
So it wasn't a surprise that we
It
were
wasn't a
struggling to
surprise
build our
that we
family.
and
We
so
were struggling
I
to build our
appreciated
family.
the fact that
And so I
sent it to my
appreciated the
sister
fact that she also
because she didn't
sent it
want
to
to
my sister
overstep. And throughout the
because she
years,
didn't want to
people
overstep.
had
And throughout
sent
the
us
years,
directly.
people had
There's
sent
a
us
group of
directly.
siblings that live in
There's
this
a group of
state, and
siblings
they're up
that
for
live in
adoption.
this state,
And we would
they're up
inquire
for
about it,
adoption.
and sometimes
And we would inquire about
it
it,
didn't
and
work
sometimes
out, or it really wasn't
it
true,
didn't work
or they
out,
had to
or
stay
it
in
really wasn't
state.
true, or they had to stay in state.
So we had always, we had, spoken
So we had
to
always,
good
we
friends
had,
of ours
spoken
about that
to
we were open
good
to
friends of
adoption.
ours
Our
about
families
that we
knew.
were open to adoption. Our families knew.
So my sister sent it to me right away.
So my sister
And
sent it to me
within
right
like
away.
5 minutes,
And
I had
within
contacted
like
the one that
5
posted it.
minutes, I had contacted the one that
She had
posted
put me in
it.
touch with the expectant mom.
She had put me in touch
And we were
with the
setting up
expectant
a
mom.
time to meet.
And we were setting up
Wow.
a time to meet.
Yes, it was very fast. I didn't even
Wow.
it was very
Ask
fast.
my
I didn't even
husband or tell him that I was
ask
doing
my
this.
husband or tell him that I was doing this.
Surprise!
I sent him the screenshot, and I was like,
sent him the
just FYI,
screenshot,
and I was like,
I didn't want to wait
FYI, and then I was, I didn't
And
want
also,
to
you,
wait
I mean,
because
You've been through
and also,
things
you,
not
I mean,
working
you'd
out,
also, you've
a
been
number
through
of
things
times at
not
that
working out,
stage.
a number of times at that
It's
stage.
an inquiry.
exactly.
It's an inquiry.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I was like,
So
wow, we're meeting her.
I was like,
Okay,
wow, we're meeting her. Okay. When you work with an
so
adoption agency, the
when you work
biggest
with an
pressure that I
adoption
think that they put
agency,
on
the
people is that you have
biggest
to have this
pressure that I think that they put
profile
on people
book,
is that you have to have this
that you need to
profile
write
book,
something
that
about
you
your
need to
family, write something about your family, about you, and you're writing about your husband, about you, who they are, and about your family life, and what you promised, who they are, and about your family life, and what you promised to the expectant mom. And it was a very overwhelming thought that you had to write this book. And we had 2 days to, and we had 2 days. I didn't want to show up empty-handed. I felt like I didn't want to show up empty-handed. I think I was talking to my sister, I think it was, what do you think I need to bring to this? What do you think I need to bring to somebody? Right? I'm saying to her, I want you to love me enough. And I'm saying to her, I want you to love me enough. Say yes, I would love you to. I would love to yes, I would love child in your home. I would love to place my child in your home as an adoption. And I'm like, well, I'll bring her flowers, but what else can I bring her? Flowers, but what else can I bring her to show her who we actually are?
I mean, they have to
Right.
picture
So
their,
it's
their
hard. I
child
mean, they have to picture
living with you
their child
forever, and
living
that
with
you are,
you
forever,
mom and dad,
and that you are, mom and dad, and
it makes sense that they're going to want to know what that
home and that family
looks
home
like to
and
the
that
best of
family
their ability,
looks
and
like
make
to the
sure that
best
they're
of their
making, what
ability,
they hope
and
is
make
the
sure that
best
they're
choice for
making,
their
what they
child.
hope is the best
It's
choice
such
for their
a,
child.
it's such a responsibility to be a parent, and
It's
it's
such a
also such a
responsibility to be a
responsibility
parent, and
to
it's
be
also such
a
a
parent considering
responsibility to
adoption.
be
They're both
a parent
huge
considering
responsibilities.
adoption. They're both huge responsibilities.
And I knew that she was coming with a support person. She was coming with a support person, which I was glad, because then it wasn't just her making a decision, but it wasn't just her making a decision, but it was both of them together. I was like, I want to show you everything about us. I was like, I want to show you everything about us, right? I want to show you my husband and I are, but I want to show you my husband and I are, but I want to show you family and the fact family and our extended family, my side of the family, we all live within my side of the family, we all live within a few blocks of each other, and we see each other every Saturday in the synagogue. We have kids in the neighborhood of all ages, and they're all like in and out of each other's homes, and I want to show you all that, and I want to show you all that, but we have like a half hour to meet and talk. So I opened up Canva and I very quickly put together this about us, about us. I sent it to my sister and I sent it to a really good friend of mine. I sent it to my sister and I was like, what else do I add to this? And I was like, and what else do I add? We tweaked it and I printed it on we tweaked it cardstock and I put it in a binder cardstock and I gave it to her and we met and we gave it to her and we met and it was a really good meeting. The first thing that she said though was I'm interested in my mind I was like, right. And in my mind I was like, right. We always had fostered and we always had mom who was going to be getting back her children, telling us going to be getting back her children, telling us good enough for my child, or good enough for my child, or my son really needs a haircut, so you should get him a haircut. My son really needs a haircut, knowing that we fought with him about that, knowing that we fought with him about that for like I'd rather not fight with him, and so I'd rather not fight with him, just let him, that's it. Have his hair in his eyes, and that's it.
Ready. He'll come to you when he's
exactly.
ready. That kind of a
exactly. So I was like, oh, what does an open adoption really look?
Are we doing
What
that
does an
for,
open adoption really look?
Are we doing that for 18 years?
Exactly. And so that was the question I posed to her. And so that was the question I posed to her. When you say open adoption, what do you mean? When you say open adoption, what do you mean? What is your vision? What is your vision for this? And she didn't have a great answer. She wanted to always know what's going on. She wanted to always know what's going on in the child's life. She lives in the same state as us. She lives in the same state as us. She wanted to be able to come visit. She wanted to be able to come visit. She said her parents usually come once a year as well. She said her parents usually come once a year as well. She was interested to visit and allow her parents to come visit. If we allow her parents to come visit. And it made so much sense to me. And it made so much sense to me. The best for the child, right? The best for the child. That this child, she told us at that point that it was a boy. That this child, she told us at that point that it was a boy. That he would know, like there is always going to be an identity of who I am. There is always going to be an identity of who I am and from and where did I get that from. Where did I get this from and where did I get that from? But then he has someone to ask that to. But then he has someone to ask that to. Will know who his biological parents are and his biological parents are and mother is, and he'll know who his biological grandparents are. And he'll have cousins from his biological mom and from his biological mom allow him to feel more, allow him to like understand better who he is, like understand better who he is. She wasn't asking to, she wasn't asking to. She was like, I feel like I'd be the fun aunt that will drop in. I feel like I'd be the fun aunt. Have some fun, hand out some gifts, have some fun, and hand out some gifts, visit the child, and then go home. Visit the child, and then go home.
And holds answers for him,
and
holds answers for him,
mirroring,
and allows for genetic mirroring and all these
pieces on top
very
of
important
pieces on top of.
She wants a genuine relationship with him. She wants a genuine relationship with him.
His mom, maybe not,
the
his
typical
mom
sense of a mom,
but
the typical sense
as somebody
of a mom,
who cares about him. as somebody
Exactly.
who cares about him.
Exactly.
And you felt like,
Exactly.
did you have any pause after talking to her about it? Or you felt like this is gonna work for my family?
So I had a lot of, I have a 7-year-old.
I had a lot of,
I'm going to be
I have a
starting all
7-year-old.
over again.
I'm going to be starting all over
Sleepless
again.
nights,
I'll be
sleepless
60 when he
nights.
graduates high school.
I'll be 60 when he graduates high school.
And just a lot of those sorts of thoughts.
And just a lot of those sorts of thoughts.
It was
but
more just like, is this really
it was more
what we
just
want
like,
for our
is this
family? Is this what's
really
best
what we want
for
for
our
our
family?
son?
Is this what's best
that
for our son?
you know,
That
he all he knows is being an only child, and
all he
to
knows is being an only
introduce
child,
another
and
child
to
into the family.
introduce
Another child
for
into the
him.
family is that
Like,
what's
forget
best
about what
for him.
I want, right?
Like,
Like,
forget
that
about
I
what
would sit there
I
and
want,
feel
right?
like
Like, I
my
would
family
sit
is
there
not
and
complete.
feel
I'd
like
sit at the kitchen
my
table
family
when
is
we'd
not
be eating
complete.
dinner,
I'd
and
sit at the
there's just
kitchen
the three of
table
us,
when
and
we
I
would
would
be
think
eating dinner, and
we have
there's
so
just
much more
three of us,
love
and I
to
would think
give.
we have so much more
We have so
love
much
to
more
give
space in our
in our
we have so much
family.
more
Like, we
space
would
in our
love to add another
family.
child.
Like, we would love to add
That's
another
what I
child.
want. But what's
That's
best for
what I
my
want. But what's best for
our
my
oldest child.
our oldest
And
child. He had been
and
asking for a
he
while
had
for
been
a
asking
sibling,
for
and
a while for a sibling.
around the
And
same time that we
around
had
the
met
same
with the
time
expectant mom,
that we had met
he
with
had
the
asked
expectant
me
mom,
again. He
he had
said,
asked me again. He said,
all my friends have
all my
siblings.
friends have
All my cousins have
siblings. He's like,
All my
why
cousins have
can I
siblings. He's
not
like,
have a
why
sibling?
can I
And
not
we went
have a
through,
sibling? What
and we
life
went
looks like,
through,
and why we
what
can't,
life
and
looks like, and
we don't,
why we
sometimes
can't,
we don't
and
always get
we
what we
don't,
want.
sometimes we don't
That must
always
have been
get
such
what we
a. I mean, these
want.
must have been really.
That must have been
I
such a. I
imagine
mean,
very
these must have
emotional
been really.
conversations
I
for you
imagine
to have
very
to
emotional
kind of get
conversations
through
for
and
you to have to
and
kind
be
of
there
get
for
through
him, even though
and be there for
this
him, even
clearly
though
is hard for
this
you as well.
this
And I
clearly is
imagine
hard
also
for
your
you
husband.
as well.
Yes,
And I imagine
yes,
also your
it was
husband.
very hard, and I would
It
say,
was
like,
very hard, and
my body
I
just
would
doesn't
say,
work
like,
that way.
my
And
body
to
just doesn't work that
really
way.
like
And
tell your
to
child that, like, I
really
know this
like
is your
tell
hope
your
and your
child that,
dream,
like, I
but
know
I
this is your
can't
hope
give
and
it
your
to you.
dream, but
That was
I
a
can't give
very
it to you.
hard
That was a very
conversation.
hard
And he was always like, oh,
conversation.
okay.
And he was always like,
But
oh,
I
okay.
know, like,
But
he had
I
this,
know,
like,
like,
wish
he
list
had
that
this,
he
like,
wrote. And
wish
on one of
list
the
that he
things was
wrote.
a brother or
And on one of the
sister.
things was a
And so
brother or
I
a
know
sister.
that, like, even though
And so
he
I know that, like,
conceptually
even though he
understood what we were talking about, that
conceptually
it was
understood what we were
not
talking about, that it
necessarily
was not
what he wanted.
necessarily
He still wants the
What
baby.
he wanted.
He still wants
Exactly.
the baby.
Exactly.
and so and
After we met
so
with her, and she
after we met
asked
with
then
her,
if she
and
could
she
come to our
asked
house to
then
meet
if she
our
could
oldest
come
son
to our
and to
house to
see
meet our
what it
oldest
looks
son,
like,
and
our
to
home, and what
see
our life would
what
look
it looks
like.
like, our home, and what our life would
And
look
so
like.
we had her come, and she, took a tour of the house.
She
And
took a tour of
she,
the house.
she ate dinner with
And
us,
and
she ate dinner with us,
yep,
and she got to meet him,
yep,
meet our
she got to
oldest
meet
son,
him,
What was?
meet
I'm
our
sorry to
oldest
interrupt. I
son.
feel like I just have
I'm
questions.
sorry to
Like,
interrupt.
what was
I feel
that?
like I just have questions.
What was
Like,
that
what
like
was that?
have
What
the
was that
meeting,
like
but
to
also how
have
did your
the
son
meeting, but also
react to,
how did your
you know,
son
this
react
person may
to,
be very important to our
this person may
family
be
in the
very
future?
important to our
So we
family
didn't
Don't
tell
know
in
for
the
him.
sure.
future.
So
Oh,
we
you
didn't
don't
tell
know
him
for
anything.
sure.
That's
Oh,
very
you
So we
didn't
didn't
smart.
tell
tell him
him.
anything.
Yes.
That's very
Yes.
smart. Okay, that
We,
makes a lot of sense. That
we
makes a
were
lot of
very
sense.
calculated
We
that
were
we didn't, I
very
feel like
am I very
calculated that we
dark?
didn't, I feel like
A
am
little
I
bit.
very dark?
A little
Okay,
bit.
hold on one second.
I also have like a
Okay,
very bright
hold
light
on
right
one
here, so
second.
I also have like a very bright light right
Maybe
here,
it's
so
a
I
little
feel
bit
like just
better.
comparatively.
Maybe it's a little bit
We
better.
were very calculated that
We were very calculated that
Okay.
did not want. We told him that
we
these were just some
did
friends of
not want,
ours.
we told them that these were just some friends of
And they were
ours,
coming for dinner.
and they were
And
coming
we
for
were going to eat
dinner,
outside. So if he wanted to
and
run
we were going to
around,
eat
then he could
outside,
run
so if he
around.
wanted
And if
to
he
run around, then he could run
wanted to sit
around, and
down
if
and eat
he
with us, he's welcome to do
wanted
so.
to sit
So we
down
ate
and eat
now.
with us, he's
He sat
welcome
and
to
ate
do
with
so.
us
So
for a
we
little
ate
bit,
now.
and
He
they asked
sat
him
and ate
some
with us for a
questions,
little
and he
bit,
gave
and
a
they
like a
asked him some
typical 6-year-old
questions, and he
answer,
gave
a lot of
a, like,
rolling
a
his
typical
eyes,
6-year-old
and
answer, a lot
why
of
don't he
rolling his
answer that
eyes, and
question? Why don't he answer that question?
and then
And
then he went off and
then
played, and our neighbors were
and
outside
then
in
he
their
went off and
backyard, so
played,
we
and our
just, like,
neighbors were outside in
ran
their
through the
backyard,
fence
so
and
we
went
just
to their
like
backyard,
ran through the
which
fence
I
and went
thought
to
was
their
like such a
backyard,
good
which
organic
I
way
thought
to
was like
show
such a
like what
good
our neighborhood
organic
really
way
is
to
like.
show
That
like what our neighborhood really
the
is
kids
like.
are
That
literally just
the
there's
kids are
holes, not
literally
holes, but
just
like gates in
there's
everybody's
holes, not
fences, and
holes, but
everyone
like
just
gates
runs in everybody's fences and everyone just runs in between each other's yards. Your child, should you choose should you pick us, then this is what your child will be raised then this is what your child will be raised like.
Right.
So
I mean, like, you can't write a narrative, you know what I mean?
Right. I
You
mean,
can't
like, you
put that in
can't
a
write a
narrative
narrative.
and
You know
have
what
it
I mean? You
nearly
can't
as
put that in
conveyed
a
as, like,
narrative and have it nearly as
I mean, this is
conveyed as,
such a
like,
rare thing, and I
I mean,
also
this
just
is
want to
such a
highlight that for a
rare
second
thing, and I also
this
just
is
want to
not
highlight that for a
every
second of like
adoption
adoption
experience
experience
by
by
any means, like,
adoption
to even have an
experience by
any means, like to even have an expected parent come to your home organically, what does dinner look like? And to like meet the child, the child that's already there. The child that's already there. But to be able to see, this is what this is what life is like, and I'm having a little boy, and this is what his life might feel like. I mean, that's amazing, and it's amazing, and it's. I wish everybody got that experience. I wish everybody got that experience in the adoption world. This is not just what we wrote in Canva. This is not just what we wrote in Canva. This is real.
Exactly. And so at that meeting, she said that she had a lot to think about. She would be in touch with us. And then she told us afterwards that because of many convoluted reasons, she was going to choose a family out of state. She was going to choose a family out of state.
Okay.
And we said, okay. It was really nice to meet you. We said, okay. Best of luck. It was really nice to meet you. Wish you the best of luck. Ways.
Right.
This was like September time. This was like September time. December, and like right December, as I was about, I think I was leaving for Florida to go visit my parents. We were leaving for Florida to go visit my parents. And she called me, and I was like, that's weird. And I was in the middle of something, so I didn't pick up. I was in the middle of something, so I called her back a few minutes later. And then I called her back a few minutes later. She said, I've been thinking a lot, and I feel like you guys are really the best. And I feel like you guys are really the best, like match for my child, and like match for my child. And I want to know if you are still interested in adopting him. Again, didn't even speak to my husband. Again, I was like, didn't even speak to my husband. Yes, we will. Yes, yes, we will. We would love to. And we would love to. We had a lot of like
shocking phone call.
We had a lot of like
shocking phone call.
It was very. I remember actually it was very. I remember actually and we were having a family Hanukkah party. Having a family Hanukkah party minus my parents because they were in Florida wintering and or snowbirding. So I walked into my sister's house. So I walked into my sister's house, and I was just like, and I was like, mom just called us again. The birth mom just called us again. Or the expectant mom just called us again. And she wants us to adopt her baby. And she wants us to adopt her baby. And I was like, and I think this is like for real happening. This is like for real happening. Because we had already been told no once, so we were been told no once, so we were kind of like.
Protect your heart. I think even just having like an infertility history. I think even just having like an infertility history, as best you can, like kind of as best you can, like for the worst is possible because I've been there. The worst is possible.
Exactly. It's so true because every time I would get a positive pregnancy test, I was like, just because you get a positive pregnancy test doesn't mean you're actually going to result in a baby. Doesn't mean you're actually going to result in a baby. Let's not get excited. And even when you see a heartbeat, let's not get excited. And even when you see a heartbeat, let's not get excited until you actually have the baby in your arms. Then you can get excited. So that is very true. So we did. I feel like that. We did. I feel like that. Whatever the word is, like that from your whatever the word is, from like my that experience from your came through again. From my experience, we're gonna put up some walls and like we're gonna put up some walls and let's we have to move forward. She gave me her attorney's name and I contacted her attorney's name and I contacted her attorney. We hired our own attorney and we moved forward. We hired our own attorney and we moved forward. She wanted me to come to her doctor's appointment. Wanted me to come to her doctor's appointment. At that point, I think they were. And at that point, I think they were. Maybe.
So she's toward the end of her pregnancy.
She was due March. She was due March. So maybe it was every 3. I don't remember, but maybe it was every. I don't remember, but I settled on everything. I think by the time we settled on everything, it was every 2 weeks. I was going to her doctor with her. Incredible to be able to have that ability. To be able to have that ability. Heartbeat every time that I went. Hear the heartbeat every time that I went. And at one point they did a sonogram to make sure the baby was head down. I was able to see that. Looking at the ultrasound. Looking at the ultrasound. That's like a real baby. Oh my gosh! Even though yes, real baby. It was just even though yes, pregnant. It was just vividly pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh! I was like, a real baby. That this is like a real baby. She's asking us to adopt. Like she's asking us to adopt. This could be our baby. Wow, but again, this could be our baby. Could be our baby. But again, it was always could be our baby, not will be. And we had reached out to a friend of ours who's a social worker. Said to her, I know this is not your forte, but perhaps I know this is not your forte, but perhaps colleague that this is that is colleague that this is your that is their forte. What do we tell our oldest son? Especially knowing that. Especially knowing that once she gives birth, once she signs the paperwork in the hospital, we can bring the baby home. The paperwork in the hospital, we can bring the baby home. To change her mind. But she still has time. And so we need to prep him. First of all, that we need to prep him. God willing, first of all, we are going to be God willing. We are going to be bringing home a new baby. But it's not. But for sure, definite. Not until for sure, definite. 7 to 8 days have passed. The 7 8 days have passed. And so there was a lot of research that happened. And so there was a lot of research that happened. Got back to us and told us. She thankfully got back to us. She gave us some really great language to use. She gave us some really great language to use, and we were able to mirror that. And when we told our son, he was like, and when we told our son, he was like, she gives birth, and we bring the baby home after the 5 business days, which is like the 5 business days, which is like 8 days. Then we get to keep the baby forever and ever. And I was like, then we get to keep the baby forever and ever. And I was like, yes, forever and ever. And he's like, that's the best news I've ever heard. And that's the best news I've ever heard. But you just need to remember that she could change her mind. But you just need to remember that she could change her mind.
She has the right to parent.
She has the right to
parent
parent
quickly.
Things can shift
As much as you know it's a real baby on the sonogram, like
it's a real baby on the sonogram, like
the
giving
emotions
birth
that
and the
come
hormones
from
that
giving
kick
birth
in,
and the hormones
decisions
that
can
kick
change
in,
really
and
fast, or
decisions can
8
change really
business days
fast,
later,
or
it's still pretty
8
fast.
business
Like,
days later,
exactly.
it's just still pretty fast.
and to explain that to a 6-7-year-old
about
a 6-7-year-old about
we're all very attached, but we have to be careful.
we're all very attached, but we
It's
have to be
hard.
careful.
Yes.
It's
And
hard.
he really took it like a champ. And he really took it like a champ. He kept saying after the baby was born, he kept asking, he's like, so how many more days is it? He kept asking, he's like, so how many more days is it? And we explained also because part of the open adoption was that she was going to come to milestones. And so she was going to come to milestones. We wanted it that she was going to come to the bris. I said, because within the first, within the first few days of a Jewish baby boy's life, there's a lot of milestones that happen. There's a lot of milestones that happen. And so she came to the bris, and so she came to the bris, born son from her. The first, so there was a pigeon haben afterwards. So there was a pigeon haben 30 days after, and so she came 30 to days that. After, and so she came to that. And we said to him, and you're going to see her, and she's going to be in this baby's life, and she's going to be in this baby's life forever. But that doesn't mean that she's going to take the baby back. That doesn't mean that she's going to take the baby back. Once the time has changed, she's just going to be part of our family, and she's just going to be part of our family, and she's not going to be able to say, okay, he's going to come home. She's not going to be able to say, okay, he's going to come home with me now. He's going to stay with us.
Was that at all hard for you or your husband?
At all hard for
you or your husband
with
with
your son, but
now
to be
you
like,
just
this
have a
person
conversation with your
is
son, but to be like, this person
in
is
these very important milestones
in
with us,
these
and
very
our
important
milestones with us, and our families here.
Like,
I don't know how they all handled it.
Because this is
like, I'm curious.
I think open adoption can feel very scary.
I think open adoption
for folks
can feel
who
very
are
scary
just trying to
for folks who are
conceptualize it
just
as like
trying
a
to
hypothetical
conceptualize it
as like a hypothetical
when they haven't actually met, when they haven't actually met
or expected parents,
this expected parent or expected parents.
to have them at milestones and
to have them at milestones.
Yes, this is
and
going to
have
be
them
somebody
be-
who's in
yes,
our
this is
lives,
going
not
to
even
be
just in our
somebody
lives,
who's
but
in our lives, not even
as
just
you
in our lives,
decided
but
to
in
pose
our
it, which
family,
is,
as you
I
decided
mean,
to pose it.
I
which
personally
is-
love that, and I also know it can make others
love that,
feel
and I
really
also know
vulnerable.
it can make
I'm
others
curious
feel
what this was
really
like
vulnerable.
for you
So
and
I'm
your
curious
husband.
what this was like for you
It
and your
was.
husband.
We intellectually knew that was the right decision. Emotionally, I think sometimes it was a little bit hard. I remember when a baby boy is born, the first Friday night, there's like this big, everyone comes and celebrates and welcomes the baby. Everyone comes and celebrates and welcomes that as well. And she came to that as well. And we spoke to her about it beforehand. We spoke to her about it beforehand. You are welcome to come to these things. You are welcome to come to these things and ready to come. Comfortable and ready. She spoke about it with her therapist. And she spoke about it with her. She was ready to come to and those. She decided that she was ready to come and to the baby those. He was born and the baby like Friday night 2 a.m. And so the like following weekend was so the following weekend was Friday night everybody comes and there's Friday night everybody comes and there's a lot of celebration. Saturday morning was the circumcision. Saturday morning and then was the circumcision. Again, it's like a whole and then ceremony. Again, it's like a whole. We said you're welcome to ceremony. Come to both of these. We said you're welcome to. We know though you'll be like. We know though you'll be like a week postpartum. And I remember Friday night she got very emotional at some point. She got very emotional at some point and then she decided to leave. She was crying and then she decided to leave. And I said to my husband, like, did we make a mistake? Should we have not like invited her? Should we have not because invited her? Did she realize like did she realize no, this is not what I want? No, this is not what I want. I want to parent this child. I want to parent this child. Beautiful, which would have been right to do so, and beautiful, and her right to do so, and we would have supported that, but we would have been devastated. But we would have done that. And so it turns out she was more emotional just seeing how much love the community was showering this baby, how much love the community was showering this baby, and of our family, acceptance of the community and of our family. That so happy to see that. That was a relief. So that was a relief. It was hard. But to say it was hard to say it was a lot of like soul searching. It was a lot of like soul searching. And ultimately we said what's best for our child. And ultimately we said what's best for our child. For our child. It would be beautiful for our child to have his adoptive parents at his circumcision, at his circumcision. We discussed the name with her beforehand, and we discussed the name with her beforehand, and we said this is what we're thinking about. His middle name tangentially her grandfather's name. Her grandfather was someone that was very important to her. Her grandfather was someone that was very important to her. Spoken about it with us, and she had spoken about it with us, and she felt that her grandfather had passed away, and she felt that he was really she felt very connected to her grandfather, and she felt very connected to her grandfather. We used a spin-off of that name. We used a spin-off of that name and gave his memory of her grandfather, in memory of her grandfather. And we felt like this is what's best for him. We felt like this is what's best for him. So he will have a connection family and his biological family. And unfortunately, there's no pictures because it's on Saturday. Unfortunately, there's no pictures because it's on Saturday. He'll know and he'll hear stories that we were all there together to support him. And so that's ultimately what drove our decision. And not him. What is best for our emotions. And not what is best for our emotions.
Wow. I mean, and you're having this new. I mean, and you're having this whole new little life in your family. You're adjusting, and your family. You're adjusting, and your sons. I'm sure your big son is adjusting. You're navigating difficult. You're navigating difficult. Maybe not everybody in your life fully understood. It sounds like you just kept going back to centering. It sounds like you just kept going back to centering. Well, what do we? This little baby of what do we? And what is this? What do we feel? And what is this? What do we feel? I mean, parent, right, is trying to do what's best for your child, no matter how that child comes into your child, no matter how that child comes into your family. Sometimes it may be a little bit more complicated. Sometimes of what's going to be best for this child in terms of how you feel about it. In terms of how you, I think that feel so about beautiful. But it just kind of kept coming back to okay, well, you just kind of kept coming back what's right for him, and how can we manage what's right for him, and how can we manage emotions, our own sort of separately, not say oh, sort of separately, not that we're having these emotions, or shameful that we're having these emotions, or we shouldn't be having these emotions. Put him at the center, and we want to manage ourselves. Put him at the center, and we want to manage ourselves. And it sounds like seeking the support that you. It sounds like seeking the support that you needed to do all of. And for your older son too, and for your older son. So many moving pieces, right? So many moving emotions, right? So many moving emotional pieces. So beautifully done. It sounds like so beautifully done. With such short notice too. With such short notice too.
I know it was very short, and she also gave birth early. It was very short, and she also gave birth 2 weeks early. So like 2 weeks early. So it was a lot of like scrambling. It was a lot of like fully scrambling and telling our son. Thankfully, we had planned on telling our son. Thankfully, we told him. 3 weeks ahead of time because she went into labor early and we had enough time to prep him. But yes, we always went back to what is best for both of our sons, right? What is best for both of our older son, what's best for him, and older son, what's best for him, he felt comfortable. Making sure that he felt comfortable from the minute that we brought the baby home. From the minute that we brought the baby home, like embrace to watch him younger brother and younger brother, love him, and there was love him. It was a very smooth transition. It was a very smooth transition, which shocked us, but it was. But it was really he like loves him. It was really when they look at each other and they both smile at each other. When they look at each other and like both smile at each other. This is why we did it. Like this is even though sometimes we might feel uncomfortable. Even though sometimes we might feel uncomfortable. This is what we did it for. This is what we did it for.
Because I think that's such a valid point. And when you say you feel uncomfortable, and when you say you feel uncomfortable, I'm assuming about like maybe the open adoption. I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think that really highlights something. You don't always have to feel 100% comfortable with an open adoption. To have an open adoption, to have a healthy open adoption, and to have a healthy open adoption. Lots of relationships in our lives, in our lives with friends, at work, with family, with at work, discomfort. We can exist and manage it, and do what's and manage it. Think about what we what we want ethically and what kind of aligns with our morals and what kind of aligns with our morals and what we want for our children. Things do not have to feel 100% comfortable. Things do not have to feel 100% to be okay and to be right for who we are. That's a hard thing to kind of grasp. I think that's a hard thing, especially going through fertility, especially going through fertility, like who we're hoping to have a child, we're hoping and have to take a different pathway to parenthood, and whether take a different pathway to parenthood, whether it's fertility treatment or adoption, or surrogacy, fertility treatment or adoption, or surrogacy, donor conception. There's so many unexpected emotions, there's so many unexpected emotions, that you weren't necessarily imagining. Thought, hey, we get married and we have a baby. Hey, we get married and we have a baby. It's hard to sort of. It's hard to sort of. There's more to navigate emotionally. There's more to navigate emotionally. Like you're alluding to. as you're alluding
there's
to,
so much beauty.
There's so much
in
beauty
your family, and it
and
sounds like, you know,
in your family,
even,
and it sounds
your
like,
big son
even
certainly
your
feels
big
that
son
way, and as well
certainly
as you and
feels
your
that way,
husband.
and as well
Exactly.
as
And
you and your
like you were
husband.
saying, there's exactly. And like sometimes I feel like there's mourning that happens. Sometimes I feel like there's mourning
Right,
that
like,
happens.
this is not the family that I
Right,
pictured.
like
This
this
is
is not the
not
family that I pictured.
This is not the number of children that I pictured.
This is not the number of children that I pictured. This is not the age gap that I ever pictured. And then I also, so I can have that sadness. And then I also, so I can have that sadness. And you and I have always spoken about how you can hold two emotions. You and I have always spoken about how you can hold two emotions at the same
Yes,
time.
you
And
Naomi
so,
and I go way back, everyone.
and
Naomi
so,
and I go way back, everyone.
true. True. So,
But yes.
yes, I can, be sad that
Yes,
this is
I can,
not how I
be
pictured
sad that
my
this is
family,
not
and
how I
also be
pictured my
so
family,
incredibly
and also
grateful,
be
and feel
so
so
incredibly
incredibly
grateful,
grateful
and feel
the family that I
fulfilled
have been
that this
given,
is, and
the family
really,
that I have been
I
given.
was just thinking
And
this
really,
week,
like, I think yesterday or the day before, like, I think yesterday or the day before, new baby has really, like,
this
been
new
the,
baby
like,
has
bow
really,
that
like,
ties our family
been the,
together.
like, bow that ties our family together.
He has
That
brought so
really,
much
like,
joy, and
he has
like,
brought
such
so much
change
joy
in a
like,
good
such
way to our
change
family
in a good
that
way
it
to
really
our
feels
family,
like
that
we
it
all just
really
feel
feels
settled and
like we all just
satisfied.
feel settled
And yes,
and
like
satisfied.
he wakes up in the
And
middle of
yes,
the night and
like
cries,
he
and
wakes up in the middle of the night
he's
and
a
cries,
baby,
and and it's
he's
a
not all
baby.
rainbows and
He's a baby,
butterflies.
and it's not all rainbows and butterflies.
But it really,
But
it feels really right.
it feels
And
really right.
and
And
the open
it's
adoption, I was
and
very,
the open
very nervous
adoption, I
about
was
it.
very, very
Um,
nervous about it.
and it was not as scary as I
Yes.
thought. And it was not as
And are you
scary as
still
I
in
thought.
touch at this point? And are
With
you
the
still
first
in touch
one?
at this point?
Yep, she's
With
coming
the
to
first
visit
one?
next week.
Okay.
She's coming to visit
Wow.
next week.
Wow.
Yes.
And maybe this
Yes.
is a loaded question, but
Does your family feel complete?
but does
At
your
this point
family
to
feel
you?
complete, or at least
At
for
this point
today,
to
you're
you?
feeling like
Or at least for
we're in a good
today,
spot?
you're feeling
So
like
that's
we're in
a
a
good
good
question.
spot?
That's a good
I feel
question.
like
I
I
the
feel like
newborn stage. This is
newborn
great,
the
and we're
newborn
done with the
stage.
newborn
This is
stage.
great, and we're done with the
We actually
newborn
were just
stage.
talking because our
We
license
actually
is
were
up
just
for
talking
renewal.
because our license is up
I
for
think it's in
renewal.
December, so kind of
I
like
think it's in
around
December,
now
so
we have
kind
to
of
start
like
taking more
around
training, and we have to
now
get
we
our
have to start
certifications
taking more
together.
training, and we have to get our
And
certifications
I said
together.
to my husband, I'm like,
And
are we
I said
gonna
to my husband, I'm
keep
like,
our adoption
are we
license
gonna
open?
keep our
And he's like,
adoption
it
license
doesn't,
open?
because
And
we're
he's
doing
like,
it
it
through the
doesn't,
foster care system, and
because
it's
we're
in
doing it through
conjunction
the
with our
foster care
foster care
system and it's in
agency. It
conjunction with
doesn't
our
cost
foster
us
care
anything. The only thing
agency.
that we have to do is
It
get
doesn't cost
fingerprinted
us
every year
anything. The
at
only
this
thing that we have
point.
to do is get
Right.
fingerprinted every year at
And
this point.
Right.
we both kind of said,
And you
we both
never
kind
know.
of like, there might be another
You
child
never
out there,
know.
not
Like
a
there might be
newborn,
another child out
but
there,
a
not a
child that
newborn,
because of their
but
life
a child
circumstances,
that because of their life
needs a
circumstances
new home, and
needs a new home,
maybe
and
it doesn't hurt.
maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't
So
hurt.
you're open to seeing
Yeah.
sort of
So
what
you're
life
open to
brings
seeing
your
sort of
way.
what life
Exactly. And we
brings your
always have the
way.
option to say no. Exactly. And we always have the
Right,
option to
of
say no.
course. And because you,
Right,
again,
of
centering the
course. And
children you
because you,
have, if
again,
something,
centering the
centering
children
the
you
family
have,
you have,
if something
and
doesn't make
centering the
sense,
family you have, if something
then
doesn't
something
make
doesn't make
sense,
sense. And
then something
if it
doesn't make sense,
does,
and
then,
if it does,
if the things,
then,
everything aligns,
if the things,
it might
everything
make
aligns,
sense.
it
Exactly.
might make sense.
Exactly.
How does it feel? I think
How does it
something
feel?
that can
I think
come up a lot with
something that can
infertility
come up a
and like
lot
a
with
long history of
infertility
infertility
and like a long
and
history of infertility
can really
there's so much that's out of your control.
there's
Right?
so much
Like
that's out of
it's
your
wild.
control.
And it's
Right, like
not so
it's
dissimilar.
wild.
There's a
And
lot
it's
that's out of your
not so
control.
dissimilar. There's
In
a lot
those,
that's out
in
of
that
your
early
control.
phase of like,
In
is
those
this happening?
in that
Is this
early
not
phase of
happening?
like,
What will
is
it
this
look
happening?
like?
Is this not happening? What will it look like?
What is it like to sort of sit
What is
in
it
that
like to sort of
place
sit
of,
in that
well, we still
place
don't know what's going to happen in the future.
well, we still don't know
And
what's going to happen
we're
in the future,
and leaving a door
and
open when
we're
and not knowing
and
if
leaving
any
a
other
door
child is
open
going to
and
walk
not knowing if
through.
any other child is going to walk through,
And sort of saying, it sounds like you're sort of saying like we're
it
okay
sounds
with
like you're
that.
sort of
How do
saying
you
like
how does that
we're
feel?
okay with
And
that. How do you
how does
to
that
that
feel?
place
And how did you
potentially?
get to that
Yes.
place?
So I feel like
potentially?
it's because we draw on our infertility experience. You take one step at a time, right? Like, you take one step at a time, right? IVF, when you're faced with IVF, to think about the number of shots you have to take, to think about the number of shots number of ultrasounds you have to go to, and number of ultrasounds trying to figure out and are my trying to figure out follicles growing fast enough? Do I have enough? Are they large enough? When is enough? Do I have enough? Are they large enough? When is this your control? Even
so
like
much
the
that's
retrieval
out of
date, you don't know if it's even like the retrieval date, you don't know if it's going to be when it's going to be. The transfer date, you don't always know when it's going to be. The transfer date, you don't always know when it's going to be. And so you take one step at a time.
right now,
And you
our
take it one
family's
day at a time.
really
And
good.
right now, our family's really good.
And maybe we'll be approached, or
we'll
we'll
be
hear
approached
something,
or
it
we'll
will feel like
hear
a good fit
something,
for our
and
family, the same way
it
that
will feel
this
like a good
child felt
fit
like
for
a
our
good
family,
fit,
the same way
right?
that this child felt like a
There were
good fit,
times
right?
that there were
There were
sibling groups that
times
we've heard
that
about,
there
or
were
other children that we
sibling
had
groups that
heard
we've
about,
heard
and we
about, or other
inquired,
children
and
that we had heard
either
about, and
it
we
didn't work
inquired,
out, or
and
we said this is
either
not a good
it
fit
didn't
for our
work out, or we
family.
said this is not a good
And
fit for our
so
family.
and
You
so
just never know what life is going to bring you. I mean,
you
life
just
is
never
full of
know what life is going to
unexpected
bring you. I
turns,
mean, life
and
is full of
so
unexpected turns.
I think
And
we just
so
really draw from our past
I think we just
experience
really
and say
draw
one
from our
step at a
past
time, one
experience
day
and
at a
say
time.
one
And so
step at a
right now our
time, one
family
day at a
feels
time.
and so right now our
Good.
family
And
feels we're
good.
very
And
fulfilled with
we're
adding a new
very
child to our
fulfilled with
family.
adding a new
And also
child to our
maybe one
family.
day something else
One
will come
day
up and we'll say this feels like
something
a
else
good
will
fit
come
for
up
us
and we'll
too.
say this feels like a good fit for
And
us
if it
too.
doesn't, I
And
love
if it
to see this
doesn't,
relationship
I
that my
love
two
to
sons
see
have
this
with each
relationship
other,
that my
and how
two sons have
excited in
with
the
each
morning when
other,
they both get
and how
up. They're
excited in
excited
the
to see
morning
when
each
they both
other.
get up. They're
And
excited
our
to see
older
each other
son and our
loves our
older
younger
son
son and
like
hugs him and wants to
loves our
feed him
younger son
food
and
and
hugs
wants
him
to
and
like
wants to
feed him
feed him
food and
except
wants
for
to like
changing
be
diapers.
involved except for
Valid.
changing diapers.
Exactly. Valid.
Like he wants to be involved in
Exactly.
every step of the
Like he wants
process.
to be
And so
involved in
that
every step of the
to me I
process.
look
And
at
so
this and I'm
that
like,
to me
this
I
is
look at
right.
this and I'm like
Yeah.
what we
This is
did was
right.
right.
Yeah.
What we
Makes a lot
did
of
was
sense.
right.
I have one more question at least off the top of my head, but
I
I
have
also
one more
just want to
question
open
at
it up.
least off the top of my
There are
head, but I
folks
also just want
watching.
to
If you
open it
have
up.
any
There
questions
are
for
folks
Naomi,
watching. If you
please
have
by
any
all means
questions
you
for
can put them in
Naomi,
the
please by all
comments.
means you can put them in the
And we can try to
comments.
answer a couple depending
And
on,
we can try to answer a
Naomi's
couple
obviously free to
depending
say,
on,
hey, I don't want to answer
Naomi's
that
obviously free to
question.
say, hey, I don't want
But
to answer
I
that
know that you said
question.
before with me that
But I
you're
know that
open
you
to
said
taking some
before with me
questions.
that
So
you're
by all
open to
means, if
taking some
anybody has
questions. So
questions, you
by
can
all
throw
means,
it
if
in the
anybody has
comments.
questions, you can throw it in the
So my
comments.
my last question that off the top of my
So
head
my
right now at
my
least
last question that off the top
is
of my head right
just
now at least
how is
is
your extended
just how is
family?
the how
I
is
know
your
that you said
extended
like the community
family?
as a
I know
whole
that you said like the
has
community as
been
a
really
whole
supportive. Has the
has been
extended
really
family
supportive.
been
Has the extended
you
family
know? 'Cause
been?
it sounds like
You
they
know,
probably didn't have a ton of
it
time
sounds
to
like
like
they probably didn't have a ton
prepare
of
and
time to
whatnot.
like
How has everybody
prepare and
been in
whatnot. How
terms
has
of
everybody
welcoming
been
this
in
new
terms
little
of
life into
welcoming
your family through
this new little
adoption?
life into your family through
So it's been
adoption?
incredible. I
So
do
it's
have to
been
say, like,
incredible.
we are
I do
extraordinarily
have to
lucky
say,
that
like,
we've
we are
had full
extraordinarily
support
lucky that
from
we've
both
had
sides of
full
our
support
family.
from both sides of our
That
family.
even my grandfather,
That
who's like a very
even my grandfather, who's like
old
a very
school,
old
he's 103,
school,
thank God, and
he's 103, thank
yes,
God,
and so he's
yes,
very old school. And
and
when
so
we
he's very
told
old
him
school. And when we
that
told him that
we had adopted, we didn't tell him until after the baby
that
was
we
born
had
and
adopted, we didn't
the
tell him until
paperwork
after the
had
baby
been
was
signed that
born
we were
and
actually bringing
the
the baby
paperwork
home.
had been signed that we were
And he
actually
said,
bringing the
he's like,
baby home.
this is the best news
And he
I've
said,
ever
he's like,
heard.
this is the best
And
news
I
I've
feel
ever
like that
heard.
was a sentiment
And
of
I
every
feel like
single
that was
person
a
in the family.
sentiment of every single
That
person in the family.
my
That
husband's family does not live in
my
town,
husband's
and
family does not live in town, and
he has four siblings,
he
and
has
so
four
three of his
siblings,
siblings and his
and
mom
so
came
three of his
for the
siblings and his
weekend
mom came for
of the
the
Shalom
weekend
Zacher and the
of the
circumcision.
Shalom
They all
Zacher and
came
the
for it.
circumcision. They all
My
came for
parents
it.
came back from Florida
My
for
parents
it.
came back from
My
Florida
siblings were
for
there.
it. My
They've
siblings were
all
there.
been. They've
Like
all
a
been.
niece. I'm sorry.
It's
Like
a
a
nephew.
niece. I'm
It's a
sorry.
nephew. It's
It's a
not our
nephew. It's
grandson.
a nephew. It's
Yeah.
not our
There's no
grandson.
An
It's
adopted
question.
not.
grandson.
There's no
No.
An
question.
adopted grandson.
Yeah.
It's
No.
He is
he
part of the family.
yeah. And how
He
are
is
they
part
with
of the
the open
family.
adoption
And how are they with the
piece?
open
And when they,
adoption
I've assumed that
piece?
they've,
And when they,
obviously they've
I've
seen
assumed that
his
they've,
birth mom,
obviously
but
they've
they've
seen
probably met
his birth mom, but
chatted with his
they've
birth
probably
mom.
met,
How has that been? Because
chatted with
that
his birth mom. How
I
has
think
that been?
for
Because
a
that
lot of
I
extended
think
family who
for
doesn't
a lot
have
of
necessarily
extended
training in
family who
adoption,
doesn't have
it can
necessarily
feel
training in
really
adoption, it can
like
feel
this is what people are
really
doing now,
like this is what
and
people are doing now.
isn't this
And
confusing for the child
isn't
that they
this
have
confusing
access
for
to
the child that
biological
they have
relatives?
access to
I'm curious,
biological
how has that
relatives?
been? I'm
So to
curious,
our
how has
face, no
that
one has said
been?
anything.
So to our face, no one has said
So
anything.
that's a good
So
positive.
that's a good that's
I
positive.
think like my
I think like my
sister-in-laws,
sister,
they
my
sat down with the birth
sister-in-laws,
mom and
they
spoke
sat
to
down
her
with the birth
because
mom and spoke to her
all
because
these
she was
events
at
and she
all
was there the
these
whole weekend, all these events. And she was there the whole weekend. I think my sister had met her. I think my sister had one time when she was at our house before. One time when she was at our house before the baby was born. We lived back to back, so we were in the backyard, and I think that she was outside in the backyard, and I think that she was outside, so she got to meet her. And they all are just like, this is And they all are just
families
like, this
don't
is
always look the
right.
same.
Families don't
And
always look the
you
same.
have non-conventional families, and that's
you
okay
have
too.
non-conventional families, and that's
And
okay
I think
too.
they've all been very just.
And I think they've all been
This is
very
beautiful.
just like, it's so
This is beautiful.
nice to
Like, it's
be able to
so
include her. I think some
nice
of
to be able
I
to
think
include her.
a
I
few
think some
people were
of
like, this is a little bit
I
where like
think
her
a few
parents
people
were
were
there
like, this
and
is a
she
little
was
bit where like
there,
her
and it's a
parents
little
were there
bit.
and she was there.
I
And
felt
it's
sometimes a little bit stressed also because
I felt sometimes a little bit stressed also because I was
entertaining
I had this
them
newborn and I
as
wasn't sleeping
I
because
had
he
this
was up
newborn
every
and I
2 to
wasn't
3
sleeping
hours.
because he was up every 2 to 3 hours.
And I wanted to make sure
Everybody was feeling
and I wanted to make
comfortable.
sure everybody was
But
feeling
I think
comfortable.
that we
But
live in
I
a
think
very
that
open community,
we
which
live in a
is
very
one of
open
the most
community,
wonderful
which
things that I
is
love about
one of
our
the
community.
most
It's
wonderful
opening
things
and
that I love
accepting
about
and
our community. It's opening,
non-judgmental.
accepting, and
And I feel like
non-judgmental.
our families
And I feel
were
like
both all the same.
our families were both all the same.
Beautiful.
Amazing. Is there anything else you want to share
Is there
with
anything
anybody
else you want to
watching?
share with
Anybody
anybody
who's considering
watching?
adoption or
Anybody who's considering
becoming a foster
adoption or
parent, working
considering
toward
becoming a foster parent,
reunification,
working toward
stability in children's lives?
reunification,
Anything you want to let
stability in
people
children's
know?
lives, anything
So
you want to
I
let
feel like
people
foster
know?
parents are
I feel like
its
foster
own
parents
Instagram
are
live.
its own
There's
its
so
own
much to
Instagram
unpack there.
live.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much to unpack there.
But in terms of
We'll have you
adoption,
come back just to
But in
talk
terms of
about. We'll have
adoption,
you come back
happy
just to
to.
talk about.
In terms of adoption, I really feel
in terms
like
of adoption, I really feel like
it's scary and there's
it's
so
not
much
it's
uncertainty,
scary
but
and
there's
it's
also so
there's
much
so much
uncertainty
uncertainty, but
when
there's
you're
also
going
so
through
much uncertainty
infertility.
that
When you're going through
you know,
infertility,
is this
that
retrieval going to work?
is this pregnancy going to work out? Is it going to be a
is this
healthy baby? Is
pregnancy
it going
going
to
to
work
work out?
out?
Is
You
it going
don't
to be a
know.
healthy
Will I
baby? There's
actually
just
ever
so
get
much.
pregnant?
Will I actually ever
will
have
I
a
actually ever
child?
get pregnant? Will
And
I
so with
actually ever have a
adoption, all of
child?
those like
And so with adoption,
fears and
all of those
uncertainty
like
come up again.
fears and
It's
uncertainty come up again. It's will the expectant mom change her mind?
will the
And
expectant
it would
mom
be
change her
so
mind?
beautiful
And
if they
it would be
decided to change
so
their minds and
beautiful if
parent.
they decided to change their minds and
Will I
parent.
get my heart crushed again the same way
Will
that
I get
like
my heart crushed
It's
again the
both.
same way that like
yes,
It's both.
yes, yes.
and so you have
Yes.
to protect yourself
And so you have
the
to
same way
protect
that you do it when
yourself
you go
and
through
the same way that you do
your
it when you go
fertility journey.
through
It's the same
your fertility
emotions,
journey.
just
It's the
different
same emotions,
circumstances.
just
Right.
different
That makes
circumstances.
Right. That makes sense. If folks have questions that come up for them later, or they want to reach out to you, are you open to saying hi to some of our followers if needed?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I always say like
Absolutely.
when I
With adoption,
I
I
always
didn't feel
say
like I was
like when
going through it alone
with
because I
adoption
was
I didn't feel like I was
absolutely
going through it alone because
able
I was
to
absolutely
like I
able
had friends to
to
reach out to and I had
like I
sounding
had friends
boards.
to reach out to and
But
I had
going through
sounding
infertility,
boards.
it was sometimes very
But going
lonely,
through
and so
infertility, it was
I
sometimes
don't
very
ever want
lonely,
somebody
and so I
to
don't ever
feel
want somebody
like
to feel
they don't have a place to
like
turn to, and
they
I
don't
know
have a
that
place to turn to.
our
And I
story
know that
was we didn't go through a private
our
agency.
story was we didn't go through a private
We
agency.
kind of self-matched,
We
and
kind of
it seemed
self-matched
to
and
go
it seemed
rather
to
smoothly. There were a few
go
hiccups along the
rather
way.
smoothly. There were a few
So
hiccups
I know
along
that
the
we're
way.
not the typical story,
So I know
but
that we're
I'm
not the typical
happy
story,
to
but
talk
I'm
to anybody about
happy
it.
to talk to
And
anybody about it. And
there's something I was going to say, but I don't remember.
there's something I was
And I
going to
do
say,
want
but
to
I
say
don't
also that
remember. Oh, and I do
I
want to
feel like
say
a lot of
also
times
that
people paint
I
adoption
feel like
as
a
this
lot of
like
times people
rainbows and
paint
butterflies and
adoption as this
beautiful,
like rainbows and
and there's
butterflies
a
and
lot of
beautiful, and
like
there's a
other
lot
stuff that
of
goes on behind
like
it, like
other
there
stuff that
is
goes on
trauma that
behind it.
happens
Like
with the
there is
child.
trauma that
Inherently.
happens with the child.
It's family separation.
Inherently.
There has to be
It's
trauma.
family separation. There
Yes,
has to be
yes,
trauma.
and he was
And
taken.
his birth
You know,
mom
he
had a
was
little bit of time
taken.
with him
His
in the
birth mom
hospital,
had a little bit of
and
time with
then
him
he
in the
came into our
hospital,
room,
and
and
he
came into our room
and
stayed with
he
us overnight
stayed with
until he was
us
discharged, and then we brought
overnight
him home
until
and he
he was
didn't really know who we
discharged, and then we
were,
brought him
right?
home and he
He had
didn't
heard our
really know who
voices
we
every
were,
once in a while
right?
because
He
we
had heard our
met
voices
with
every
the
once in a while because
expectant
we
mom.
met with the expectant mom.
He didn't know who we were. Like
He heard her
he didn't know
heartbeat
who
every
we were.
single
Like
night.
he heard her
Right. He
heartbeat
knows
every
how she
single night.
smells.
He
Like,
didn't.
right. He knows how she
Yes,
smells. Like, it's.
Yes,
I
and
appreciate
so
that you know that.
yes,
I
and
appreciate
so
that you know that. Because I feel like it's heavy and
That's
to
heavy,
hold
right?
that.
Like it's
And I'm
heavy
glad that you know that and
to
you're willing to
hold that.
share
And I'm
it.
glad that you
yes.
know that and you're
So
willing
I
to
think
share
that
it.
I think it's just
so
something
I
that
think
needs to
that
be
I think it's just something that
on
needs to
people's
be
minds that
on
adoption
people's
can be
minds
beautiful
that
and open adoption in our
adoption can be
case
beautiful
really
and
is
open
working out
adoption in
beautifully.
our case
Again, he's
really
only
is
4.5
working out
months.
beautifully.
So
Again, he's only
ask
four
me
and
in
a half
2 years
months.
and I might
So
have a different
ask me in 2
answer.
years and I might
As
have a
they ask you in
different
those teenage
answer.
years,
But
like they ask you in those
exactly.
teenage
will
years. Like
continually shift.
things will continually shift.
Because he can't talk back to me right now, right? And he can't say, well, I really like my birth mom better than you, because he can't talk to me right now. He can't talk to me right now. He can throw tantrums, but I do know that there was trauma, and there always will be that, and that is something that we need to address, and that is something that we need to address and keep forefront and always center, but it needs to just always be center, but it needs to just always be on our minds.
Yeah. I'm going to plug our fertility friends program really quickly. Naomi is one of our most beloved mentors. We have a bunch of really wonderful mentors. And if you are watching this and you are going through infertility, or you're considering adoption, or you're considering any adoption, or you're considering any pathway to parenthood, and you wish you had somebody like Naomi to talk to, or wish you had somebody like Naomi to talk to, or literally have our fertility friends program. We do have our fertility friends program. We match, folks one-on-one with somebody hopefully with similar diagnosis, things like that, similar backgrounds and whatnot, similar backgrounds.
And it's a really unique program. And Naomi, I know that I don't know if you were ever a mentee. I don't know if you were ever a mentee
No,
or
I
you were
was
just
beta
a mentor.
mentoring. No, I was beta mentoring.
She's a pro. It's okay.
She's a pro.
But also, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I want to, support others, and I want to, support others, and feel free to reach out to us and or reach out about becoming a mentee, or reach out about becoming a mentee.
We're here to offer support, and
we're here to
just
Naomi,
offer support,
thank you
and just
so
Naomi,
much.
I don't know if you've seen this wonderful comment that's sitting in here
sitting in here
from
W.
but thank you so much for such a lovely comment. But thank you so much for such a lovely comment. This has been such a wonderful experience for me as well to learn about, and thank you just so much to learn about, and thank you just so much for being so open with your story.
Mazel tov for the 100th time. I know I've said it so many times. Y'all should see my face when Naomi told me. Y'all should see my face when Naomi told me. Brought home a baby.
Mazel tov to your beautiful, beautiful
family, and thank you just so much for spending your evening with us.
Thank you for inviting me. This is really wonderful. Thank you for inviting me. This is really wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You have a lot of stories for us. You have a lot of stories for us. I know.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye, Naomi.